Okay, welcome Super Secret Agent trainees to WhizGirls Academy. Today we have an amazing master trainer teacher. Her name is Sandra Lopez. Welcome, Sandra. And she is the founder of so many things. She's got like a massive resume. I'm so excited to go through it.
Well, thank you for having me. Super excited to be here and have a conversation with you.
Thank you. Okay, so you're the founder of Ambi Ventures, but we're going to start with the beginning. So let's start with, tell me about your childhood.
So I'm first generation Mexican American. I was born in Silicon Valley before technology even began. So believe it or not, it was a bunch of orchards. I'm the middle child, and I always like to tell people it was always challenging for me because I felt like I never fit in. I was never American enough for my American friends. I grew up in an upper middle class neighborhood. I was the one of two Latinas. And then when I would go to Mexico and visit my cousins and spend a month over there, I felt like I was never Mexican enough, and they always wanted me to go back to the United States. So in that process of never feeling like I fit in, I also built a muscle about being a chameleon. So how do you adjust to your community as quickly as possible so that you could fit in? And we'll talk a little bit about this and how that affected me as an adult. Had the wonderful opportunity to go up north a little bit to the University of California, Davis, where I studied two things. One was textiles and science. I wanted to be a fashion designer, and I also knew that business was important. So I doubled up in economics. And I took myself senior year abroad to Italy, and I studied economics, and then I did a postgraduate program of fashion. So I had the opportunity to learn from some of the most amazing professors. And I also like to say, like, Italy and Paris are the heart of the fashion industry, and came back and realized that maybe I'm not the best creative designer, but I'm a really good marketer in terms of understanding your audience. So psychology, sociology, we study a lot of that in the fashion. And I decided just to pivot and go into the world of tech, and have been in tech the rest of my life. Startups, mid-sized companies, large companies, some of the big names. And it's been a wonderful opportunity to be involved in tech, because I often like to say, what type of industries shape our society and culture. And for most of our life, it was, music, fashion, movies. And technology is one of those pillars that we've seen over the last 2 decades, really affecting how we live in today's modern society.
Wow, that is phenomenal. Okay, so I have a couple of questions. Why Stanford, and then why like Italy, and why not Paris?
Part of the UC Davis program is there was one program that had this postgraduate, and it was only available to 20 people, and you had to be of Italian citizenship. And so I told my professor, my dean, I want to apply. And her point of view was, well, you can't apply because you're not an Italian citizen. And this is what happens when you're a middle child and nobody pays attention to you. You have to figure everything out on your own. I said, I'm going to figure this out. So went to the dean of UC Davis, asked them to pick up the phone, call the dean of the university in Italy, and to allow an American to participate in the program. And that's how it happened. Paris just didn't happen to have that program for me. So I went over there, spent a year and a half. And I always like to tell people that a year and a half abroad, as I was a senior in college, I learned so much about myself. And I think it was the best academics for me in terms of navigating life and learning about life outside of the United States, because most of the time I spent my life here in the United States as well as in Mexico.
Wow, that is phenomenal. Okay, so let's go back to your childhood again. So your passions and hobbies as a child, and then did you have a dream job?
My dream job was being a fashion designer. And earlier we were talking about Barbies, and I would create fashion for my Barbies and create all these stories. And so I'm a big Barbie fan. So that was my dream job. That was my aspiration. And I always used to admire, like, why does somebody wear that shirt or that color? And so that's where the psychology and sociology came in. And my passion was, I just loved participating in different things. So, albeit I participate in all different types of sports and to try to figure out if I was good at any one, and did that and played with dolls and got hung out with my friends. And I was very studious. I was very committed to excelling and being able to prove to my parents that I can go to college and I was the first one within my family to get a college education. And I had to figure all of that on my own because my parents didn't have the playbook. They didn't go to college. They were migrant here in the Bay Area. So what I did know is excel in school, participate in a sport so you have a better shot at going to the university that you wanted to go to.
Okay. Okay, so take us back to you're at UC Davis, and then you're doing textiles and clothing and marketing and economics, which are two very different things.
Yes. Yes. I mean, textiles and clothing, it was the science behind the fibers. And so you talk a little bit, I know that you have an engineering degree. It got you into the world of engineering and understanding like problem solving. And the business world is equally about problem solving. And then design also is about, how do you make somebody feel good? And so the irony is like they all have a common theme is about solving something. And you just have to use different parts of your brain and different aspects in terms of whether it's science or the art. And so I learned when I was at UC Davis that I was dexterous. Like I could do many different things. I also was curious, and I think curiosity is really important. I knew that there was this software and this programming and COBOL. And so I decided to take some engineering classes. The challenge at the time, without dating myself, is that I was one of two females in the class, and there were probably 200 individuals that were men. And when we had to go work together as a team, let's say we had to do a project of team of 5, nobody wanted to work with the two females. And so that experience, I just exited out of taking software engineering courses because I'm like, I didn't feel like I belonged. Nobody wanted me there. So I decided not to continue taking engineering courses, which is very sad because that's where you see a lot of drop off, where you just don't feel like you belong. So then you pursue something else. And maybe I could have been a software or hardware engineer as well as getting my, double degree in economics or fashion.
Yeah, that's wild. And I really applaud you for sharing that and being so honest and like upfront with us about it, because I think a lot of our secret agents are going through similar things where they feel like they don't belong and they might be interested in tech. And that's part of the reason why we're doing this as well, to showcase fabulous role models like you. But like, I think it's really been challenging for them to really connect and see that this is a pathway and there can be more women and girls in STEM. And on that note, like, when did you hear about STEM, and did you have any mentors along the way?
I heard about it when I attended college. It was the first time because when I was growing up, it was always about like, what do you want to do? You can be a doctor, a lawyer, a business person. And for, a policeman or a fireman, there was a standard types of functions that existed. And that's what everybody tried to aspire to be. So that's why I kind of geared towards being a business person. And so when I went to the UC Davis, it did a couple of things. I got myself out of the bubble. I didn't realize that the economic disparities that existed, because I grew up in an upper middle class neighborhood completely in my own bubble. And UC Davis, and not only different economics, different ethnicities that I've never been exposed to before, and different courses and curriculums that I was able to get curious. And I didn't think about psychology and understanding psychology. And I took those courses. And I think that's where I started to get really into understanding humans and why we behave the way we behave to help inform both fashion and marketing. And at the same time, I was like, what is this COBOL language? What is this software language? And we were starting to use email on campus, and I just got curious. So that's where I leaned in. As for having mentors and sponsors, I tell people that early in my career, this wasn't part of our vocabulary. We weren't talking about mentors or sponsors. I didn't have a mentor or sponsor, not until 2005, I think it started to become something that we spoke about, like who's your mentor in the professional degree. So now all of you, it's a common term, it's a common practice for people to have mentors and sponsors. And that is a gift. So I always tell people, like, now realize that what did not exist before, and now you do have it, and cherish it, and know the difference between a mentor and sponsor. A mentor is somebody that's just going to advise you on many, you can have many different mentors, and a sponsor is going to advocate for you. They're going to say, hey, and I met your intern earlier, Jennifer. Jennifer's really good at X. Think about her when she's graduating from college to give her that opportunity. And so the sponsor's your advocate, and you want to go find sponsors for the work that you want to do, and mentors will advise you and kind of guide you along your professional journey.
That's a really good point and good advice. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning of your journey in the corporate world. So you started as a marketing manager, and then you went to Adobe, and then you became the VP and general manager at Intel, and then VP, general manager, CMO at Microsoft. So tell us about that journey in corporate America.
I tell people, like, it was a little bit like Waze. I kind of knew where I wanted to go. And at the same time, I let myself kind of go in these areas that I did not know that existed. So, Waze takes you in a direction. Sometimes you have to do a shortcut to different neighborhoods to get to your final direction. You're like, I didn't realize that this neighborhood existed, even though it was around the city that you live in. And I knew I wanted to be a CMO, and so I practiced different functions. So I really wanted to get good at my craft. And I also wanted to make sure that when I became a CMO, I would understand and be able to empathize in the shoes that my team members were in. So I was just ticking off the boxes, like, I'm going to learn field marketing. I'm going to learn channel marketing. I'm going to learn advertising. And I wasn't afraid to continuously pivot, because they're really different disciplines. And I would tell my manager and those that possibly were my advocates that I wanted to aspire to be a CMO. What would it take me to, what did I have to do to get there? So I said yes a lot in terms of taking different opportunities. I pivoted a lot. I went from different companies, and that gave me growth opportunities from manager to director. I got an increase in salary. And eventually, when I was at Intel, what got me to the VP CMO title was a sponsor. A sponsor for 3 years guided me and helped me understand what I had to do to become an executive at Intel, and the expectations of me when you become an executive at Intel. And so I learned a lot. And then eventually I had the opportunity to prove that I can run a business and deliver meaningful results. And I got my VP stripes. And so I will tell anybody that in the pathway to corporate, you're going to have your own playbook. You're going to have your own journey. You're going to have your own Waze story. And just get curious and say yes a lot, meaning say yes to opportunities, even if you think that it's not the linear path that you were supposed to take. So I said yes, and I went to Beijing for a year and learned so much about how to run a business in China. That was probably a point in time that leadership paid attention to me and what I was capable of doing. I said yes to the opportunity of moving away from running a multi-billion-dollar business, a team of over 100 people, to a team of one. Most people would view that as a demotion. And I just got curious and I wanted to run a new business. I'm like, I don't know what this is going to be. And from there, team of one, I began to build out my own organization over time. But that's not expected in corporate. Most people would want to keep on going, bigger team, bigger budgets. And I just took a bet on myself, and I was going to do something radically different. And it sure as hell paid off.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's go back for a second, because I don't know if the super secret agents know the different types of marketing. You mentioned channel marketing. If you can explain those, that would be awesome.
Yes. So let's just kind of break it down on some very simple types of marketing. So there's what you see on TV. So the advertising, the 15-second, 30-second spots that tell stories about the brand. So I did that. Then you do partner marketing. So sometimes let's take, we were talking about Mattel, and Mattel sells their Barbies through a retailer. That would be a version of partner marketing. So they're not just, could be Amazon. Then you have field marketing. So you have sellers that have to go sell into other businesses. And so you have to create materials. What is the company about? What's the positioning? What do you have to offer? How is it solving a consumer's problem? And so you have people that are out there selling into a distribution channel. Then you have like email marketing, and I'm sure all these agents know there's influencer marketing. So everybody doing the TikTok, that's a form of marketing that we as people that run brands and companies partner with to help tell our story. So there's so many different types of channels that a company can use based on your customer and who you're trying to sell to. You turn on some of those dials or you turn it off.
Thank you for that. And then also tell us a proud moment at Intel when you did something that you didn't expect to have a great result.
A proud moment at Intel that I did something I didn't expect to have great result. God, let me think. I think there's the two of running completely, entirely new businesses and working with the team to build new categories. So the team had to build the wearable category. So working with Google, Android, working with new partners that Intel never has worked with. So LVMH, which is a holding company of fashion, Fossil Group. We did not know if that was going to work, but it did. And it took a lot of out of the box thinking. So the great thing there is when you're creating something, for those that want to be founders or entrepreneurs, you have a white canvas and there's no playbook that you need to necessarily reference, that you can become your own creator. And I think in that process of the wearable, I'm so proud of the collective team that built out that category. And now we're helping many consumers know more about what's happening within their bodies and or track their movement. Or I used to say like the glanceable content. Like I need to have the phone out at dinner because if somebody needs to contact me, I can get the information on my phone. And so we started the conversation with technology influences society. I think wearables is one perfect example. I'm so proud of how it's influencing society for the better.
Yeah, that's interesting. Wearable fashion. So you mentioned LVMH. I think, can you explain what that is to our secret agents? Because they might not know. And then it also intersects with your fashion as well.
Yeah, so LVMH is a holding company, and underneath that, their companies like they have Tag Heuer, they have other brands. And so working with them, it was our intentionality to work with Tag Heuer directly. So the relationship was with LVMH, and they have other brands underneath them in terms of eyewear. And the fashion industry and technology, if you think about it, it plays a really critical role. So fashion is an expression of who you are. So if you put something on your body, it should be an expression of who you are. So you see Meta, which is Facebook, and they're partnering with Ray-Ban for the virtual reality glassware. If you look at Apple to me has done a wonderful job of being a lifestyle brand. Their technology and their fashion, even their Macs and the PCs, they're just beautiful. You can have them in your living room. That in itself is a lifestyle. So the understanding of how we humans want to interact with technology is really important. And then some brands do an outstanding job of making an extension of their lifestyle.
That's a really good point that you brought up about fashion and tech, because it's super connected. And I think our super secret agents probably weren't aware of that. It's a really big deal, especially now. And we did have last season someone that does wearable tech fashion shows, and she was a physics major. So it's really interesting that you brought this up. I'm really happy that you shared that. Okay, so take us back now to your time at Microsoft and being the chief marketing officer there.
Yeah, that was a great opportunity that I was brought in. Over time in your career, you're going to learn what your superpower is. And so my superpower is either building or transforming businesses. And I love doing that. And so at Microsoft Ads, we had an opportunity to transform and get clear of the value that we deliver to businesses. So many of you know Google Ads or you know Facebook Ads. And so Microsoft had an opportunity to really position themselves as a strategic partner to businesses that want to do advertising. So as a CMO, the charter that I had there is, how do you drive clarity of what we offer and how do you pivot the brand? So that meant an investment in the brand, bringing very talented individuals on board to really shape the personality of what Microsoft Ads is and who they are to various businesses. So that was a wonderful opportunity, and had the fortunate, to see a leader like Satya, the CEO of Microsoft. He has transformed the company in an amazing way and arguably really put the limelight on the importance of ensuring the technology that you create addresses all types of humans, including those that have disabilities. So it's such a wonderful story that Microsoft in the gaming consoles, creates, different types of controllers for those that may not have hands. And I think what I learned in Microsoft after I left, I viewed the world very differently. I didn't do it before when I was at my other companies. I really it was a gift of disability. I could walk around the city, whether it's San Francisco, and let's say there's construction. I will pay attention and say, well, how if somebody that has a wheelchair, how are they going to get through? There's all this construction. And that in itself is a liability. And so Microsoft, unbeknownst to me, gave me the greatest gift of really making sure that in everything I do, think about disability and bringing that to the forefront of our conversations in terms of as we create technology and our products and services.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's interesting that you brought up your superpower, because that's a question that the secret agents always want to be asked. So we already touched on that. So that's awesome. Okay, so now take me to how you decided to become a founder and investor. And was Ambi Ventures your first startup?
I think, when I talked about when I was a little girl and doing fashion, I think that was always that was my first startup, right? I in my head, I created these businesses as a little girl, which was my fashion design. And so I would like to attribute my little 5-year-old self for being an entrepreneur then. And then I got stuck in corporate. And when I left Microsoft, you have these moments in your life that you want to think about, I may only have, 10 more holidays. I might only have, if I'm lucky, I have 4 more summers. I have a 14-year-old daughter. I have 4 more summers with my daughter before she ventures off to college world and never wants to see me again. And really think about, well, what do I want to do next? And I've spent 25 years helping businesses grow. And I thought to myself, well, now I don't just want to help one business. I want to help many businesses grow. And so part of my venture is me as an executive. It's fractional, where I can help a couple of companies at one given period of time. So right now I have 3 different clients to help them scale and grow and drive meaningful impact. And I also invest in startups with Latino founders because I saw the problem in which they're struggling to get funding. They might have an amazing business. And if we can't help these companies scale, because there's a point in time where you need to get to Series A, and that's where you need to scale. Most companies will actually close the doors. And so I'm helping trying to solve that problem and really focus in sports media, fashion tech, and ensuring that they have an equal shot as their male counterpart named John to build and scale their business and drive meaningful change in our world.
Wow, that's awesome. And that's very much needed, because I know obviously every founder needs help, but I think Latina founders obviously need it a lot as well. So we applaud you for that. Okay, so let's go to all the other stuff that you're doing in between, and how do you have the time? Like the C-suite, the board member,
advisory work, mentoring.
Yeah, all of this stuff. Speaker, author, we're excited to hear about the book, so we're going to talk about that too, all of the things.
I always tell people, there's no balance in your life. There's one thing called time. And we all know that we have 24 hours in a day. And it's how you choose to move the dials. So, as an example, at this very moment, your agents are my priority. My daughter is with her father, and so she's taken care of. So, she's not my priority at this very moment. When she's home after school or she's with me and we dedicate the couple hours, she is my priority. And so what you just have to figure out is, as you look at your day, your present moment, what's important to you and dialing that up and down. So when I accept a board seat, and for those people that are not familiar with boards, as a board member, you advise companies through governance, how do you operate a business, things that you should know about or be concerned about. And you don't do it, you just ask the questions and help them kind of navigate oftentimes uncertainty, and or make sure that they have a strategy for growth. And when you look at that and you ask yourself, like, do I have the time to commit to this? And then you have to know, okay, how much time do I need to allocate? Okay, on a 3-month basis, I'm going to have to allocate potentially 4 full days to this. Do I have the capacity to do it? Yes or no? And if I say yes, to what ends? Like, why am I doing this? What's the purpose? And so being really crystal clear of what you choose to say yes to aligns to a broader goal, a broader professional goal. So I look at it as time blocking. I have a limited set of time. How do I want to spend it? And for me, one of the things that's really important, I have once a month, I allocate one day. It's mentor day, and I just give back. And it could be anybody. It could be anybody. It could be somebody on my team. It could be somebody that I'm working with. It could be somebody at random sends me a note on LinkedIn and says, "Hey, I'd love to connect with you. Want to be a mentor?" And I just slot them in on my Friday monthly mentor days. So because that's important to me. I didn't have mentors when I was as a young little girl and or in college or going into my professional life. And so if I can give back in any capacity and just provide a point of view, it may not be right. It's just a data point for future leaders to take into. I'm happy to do that. And so I will allocate time to doing that. So there's no balance. It's just time is precious, and how do you want to spend it, and dial the knobs.
That's also really great advice. Okay, so you mentioned mentors, and that's part of maybe what you do as a board member at Junior Achievement. Tell us about that a little bit, because I think our super secret agents probably should know about Junior Achievement and what that is as well.
Yeah, Junior Achievement is an outstanding nonprofit organization that is focused on making sure that kids, usually K through high school, have their resources to excel in their both at school and getting prepared for college. And so they walk you through, there's a bunch of advanced curriculum. I highly recommend people lean into it. You learn a lot. It's pretty impressive. So it's making sure that every kid has a shot at succeeding first and foremost. And what I do as a board is there's 2 things is I'm a part of the technology committee. So I advise on terms of making sure that they have the most modern technology so the kids know how to navigate and get access to the curriculum, so that we have the most advanced curriculum. So the kids' information and the parents' information, your data is protected. And so when technology is changing at such an accelerated rate, what type of technology do you need to have in your infrastructure? How do you leverage, artificial intelligence to make the experience more efficient and more productive? So as a board member, I do a lot of advising around technology. And if they want me to meet the kids when I'm traveling, I'm also available to do that too.
That's great. Okay. And what about Pure Red?
Pure Red is so I'm on the board of that. It's a digital media company helping the largest retail companies promote their various products. And so they it's advertising and support retail. They're expanding into other verticals as well. And we, as companies, brands, are codependent on agencies to making sure that we have the right assets to reach the audience in a meaningful way and engage and hopefully buy our products.
Oh, okay. Okay, we could put those in the show notes. Actually, we'll put links to both of those in the show notes, especially junior achievement, because I think that's important for the secret agents to know. Okay, so tell us about your book and how that came about.
How did it come about? That's a great question. It goes back to the fact that I didn't have mentors or sponsors, and it's called #GoingPro, how to make it in corporate America. And if I could, and I was doing a lot of mentoring a lot of future leaders, and I just started to see a theme of these similar questions, whether it's how to prepare for an interview, what do, how do you get information, how do you say thank you. It's surprising that a lot of future leaders aren't familiar with the term onboarding. So what is onboarding? How do you prepare? And even when you're an intern, even if you're in college, understanding that you should ask for an onboarding plan so you're set up for success. How do you deal with conflict issue resolution? And so it was my way of giving back to the mass. It's my way of giving back to the masses, a playbook that you can reference of situations that are going to happen in corporate America that you're not going to learn in college. There's no academic book of the soft skills that you need to make it in corporate America. And I hope that when people read it, it's helping them get, up the ladder, rung at a time.
Yes, for sure. And we'll add links to that as well. Is it out or not yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, so we'll definitely put that for future. But in the meantime, tell us what onboarding is, because you mentioned that, and I don't know if they know that either.
Yeah, so onboarding, just think about you're getting onto kind of a ship, right? So you're trying to navigate and steer the ship of where you're going. And it's an understanding of what are the expectations that the company has of you. So I often say it's like 30, 60, 90 days. So the first 30 days, how does the company like to communicate? So I always tell my people that join my team, day one is, here's the tools that you need to communicate within our organization. And here's why. Some prefer Slack because it's easy. Some prefer WhatsApp. Some prefer email. And you use email for this, video conferencing for this. Just understanding how one company wants to communicate versus another, because it could be radically different. Knowing that, a company may have a town hall, and a town hall is when all the employees gather together, whether it's virtual or in person, to hear executives speak. And so oftentimes people never thought about going, they didn't even know that a town hall was happening. So I always tell my team members, like, ask when the town hall is. Make sure you go. Make sure you listen to the words that are being said and what's being communicated, because you can take that and reinforce it when you're presenting it. So you're doing a presentation. And then you can say, like, what's the expectation? My manager, maybe the first 60 days is just to get to know the company. Maybe for somebody else is in the first 60 days, day 61, present a recommendation. So it's basically a way to get to know the company, as well as set expectations of what your manager expects of you in the first 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And so that will help you succeed as you enter into a new company and sail your own ship in that big sea that will most likely transpire.
Yeah, thanks for explaining those. And it takes me back to when we had our town halls at Mattel back in the day. We would get emails and we had to go. So that was the thing. Yeah.
Well, at least they sent you emails and you had to go, because some companies will not send emails. There's just an unspoken expectation that you would go, and you just need to seek out the day and time and participate. And some people don't. They just want to sit in behind their desk and keep doing the work. And I always tell people, like, you're missing an opportunity to hear from your leadership, because they're telling you how you need to navigate your ship. And it's so important to allocate that time.
So true. Okay. Tell us about how you became a co-chair at the World Economic Forum, and then specifically for AR/VR. And if our super secret agents don't know what that is, explain that too.
This is when I said earlier, say yes to meetings. I was in New York. I was running the wearable business. A woman by the name of Lauren Jones reached out to me and said, hey, can we meet up for lunch? And she is part of the World Economic Forum, which is an organizing body that brings thought leaders from all over the world to drive meaningful change across many different topics. And we were supposed to have a 30-minute coffee. It ended up being a 90-minute lunch. And we just talked about the world of tech. We talked about virtual reality, where it's a third world simulation. So 3D, you can put yourself, a lot of you guys are familiar with the Roblox, etc. And a year later, so it was supposed to be coffee, and then we ended up having lunch. And I sent her a thank you, because you should always say thank you for taking for somebody wanting to meet with you. And I didn't expect anything of it. And then a year later, she asked me if I wanted to be a co-chair of this team. And I said yes. And I didn't expect this to come out of it. And then it resulted in me speaking in Davos. So, think about the most influential people in the world in Davos, and had a wonderful opportunity to go do that. If I reflect back, and if I would have said no because I'm too busy, this does not align with what I'm doing, that opportunity never would have presented itself. And so be very thoughtful, and think about saying yes. Oftentimes, I was just explaining this to somebody recently, and she has her own business and she's very focused, and she says no to a lot of meetings, or she's like, well, what's in it for me? And I was explaining to her, like, sometimes it's not about what's in it for you. Sometimes it's just getting to meet somebody. And in that meeting, you're just going to learn more about yourself, or you're going to learn something. And not everything should be a transaction in which you're going to get something. So think about that. So think about that when you're continuing with your life and a friend invites you, say yes, because you never know what door is going to open up for you.
That's a really, really, really good point. And I think that's important for many things, but specifically in this realm of business and being an entrepreneur as well, it's super important. Okay, so tell us also about the co-chair of SIGI too.
SIA. So it's a Sports Integrity Global Alliance. It's a nonprofit. The CEO, Emmanuel, used to help run the Portuguese Soccer Federation. And what he saw was just a lot of lack of ethics in sports. And so Sports Integrity Global Alliance, it emphasizes integrity in everything that we do. For those of you that recently saw the Copa America, you saw what was the team Argentina and their chants about their fellow colleagues in France. That's just not acceptable. So Sports Integrity Global Alliance does not agree with that type of tone. And so we're challenging federations, teams to do better. And as you become a SIGA member, it's your commitment to bring forward ethics and integrity into the world of sports, as well as equity, making sure that females and girls in sports and women in sports get equal pay and equal time on TV, and get equal rights to media rights that exists out there and sponsorship as men do.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And yeah, it's wild. Last weekend, Spain really took over for the Cups. That was wild. Okay, let's switch to some student questions. Yeah, this is an interesting one. As the founder of Amoeba Ventures, what was the biggest challenge you faced as you were building your company?
It was the courage to leave corporate America, a place that I was comfortable with, and venture into the most uncomfortable space, because I have never done this before.
That's very, very true. Okay. What advice would you give to those who want to break into the tech world through non-tech roles?
I'm your prime example. I didn't get a master's in engineering. I didn't get a bachelor's in civil engineering. So what I would tell you is that it's interesting, because oftentimes people are like, I don't want to be an engineer. It seems so boring. I'm like, but there's an engineering in everything. We talked about fashion and tech. The streaming of music is technology. The streaming of media is technology. Technology is now everywhere. And if you choose not to do the functional aspects of engineering per se, you can be somebody like me where like you're the business person. You can be the marketer. You can be the finance person that's running the P&L of, and that's profit and loss of a company. So I always tell young kids, just get curious. Don't assume that maybe a engineering is pure zeros and ones. There's a lot of creativity into it, and go meet people that are doing like interesting things and see if that is something that you could get passionate about.
That's a really good point. Okay, what does a typical day look like for you in your current company?
I don't think I have a typical day. There's no typical day. Like I said earlier, how I allocate my time varies day by day. But I can tell you, yesterday, yesterday woke up, had my meetings all on video conferencing, had a lunch, came back, had more meetings. Then at 4 o'clock, I had to meet a fellow Latina who is also a CMO, and we caught up, and we talked and compared notes and gave each other advice. So we always need mentors and we always need help. And so I always tell people, don't forget to ask for help. And then at 6 o'clock, I got the fortunate opportunity to, unbeknownst to me, was doing dinner, but I didn't realize I was going to do an 8-course dinner with wine pairing with the CEO of a nonprofit called Latino Corporate Directors. It's a company that's focused on ensuring that Latinos are on publicly traded boards. And so I had dinner with him, and we ideated how we can help grow his nonprofit. And this is why I've chosen to go help many companies, for the companies that I believe in, and how do we help them grow so they can drive a meaningful change and impact. So that was yesterday.
Wow, all in one day. That's
yes.
Awesome.
Yes. And I can't forget, I said goodbye to my daughter in between my meetings because she was off with her dad to Montana. So for 2 weeks. So I was able to squeeze much love and energy with her. So she's off to Montana for 2 weeks.
Huh. Okay. Another student question. Do you have any hobbies or interests outside of STEM that also help you in your work?
Sports is something that helps me with my work because it reminds me the importance of working as a team. And when I'm a leader, the importance of coaching and getting crystal clear on the playbook and providing different options, because not everything turns out the way it's supposed to turn out. And when you celebrate how you should celebrate, this recent COPA reminded us of that. And when you lose, how you can lose with grace. Equally important is I spend a lot of time with my mental health. I have something called the Miracle Morning, which I've learned through somebody that authored a book called Miracle Morning. His name is Ryan. And it's called Savers. So I wake up and I am in silence. I visualize, I acknowledge things. I exercise, I read, I scribe, which is journaling. That to me helps me create a balance in my life and not stress out. And so that is really important in terms of the meditation that I do. So that is something that I'm passionate for, and being out there with Mother Nature. And I like socializing. So I go out there and I meet people and say hi and smile on the streets. I think if we smile more, people will smile back, and maybe we'll have a happier world. So right before this, maybe 2 hours before I had to do this, I chose to do this. I went for a walk, and I was smiling, and it's interesting how many people smile back, and don't know if that one smile will make somebody's day. So let's smile more.
Wow, yeah, thank you for sharing that. We're going to add a link to the book. You said Miracle Morning?
Yeah, it's Miracle Morning, yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right, looking into the future is exciting. What do you imagine for girls in STEM down the road, and how can we make sure that everyone gets a chance to be part of the STEM adventure?
I'm super excited because we need all of you to be part of this journey, your perspectives. And we, by very nature, are very nurturing, motherly. We look at things from a different perspective that will complement our male counterparts. And I think bringing the both together will ensure that we have better products. And so earlier, we talked about how I exited STEM because I was one of two. I urge all of you guys, if there's one thing I should go back and I would do differently, is I should have just stayed in and kept going and created my own path. And so I'm excited for all of what you guys are going to do and what you're going to bring and the wonderful technologies that you're going to bring to our planet. And we talk about ethical computing. We need all of you to continue so that we sure that all the technology we create is with ethics in mind. So I'm super excited. I have hopes. I know we talk about there's not enough women in STEMs, and I think we just can't give up on ourselves. We got to, pick our swim lane, keep on swimming, and one graduate at a time, we will make meaningful change.
That's a really, really good point, and thank you for sharing that and words of advice. I noticed on your website, it says hola, which is really cute. And then it also says a quote, which says, "You are always a student, never a master. You have to keep moving forward." I think that also goes hand in hand with what you just told us. And that was a quote by Conrad Hill. How did you pick that quote?
I'm a perpetual learner. I will never stop learning. And I really believe in the power of curiosity. And so it's one of those quotes that when I first read it years and years ago, it just stuck with me. And it reminds me every day, don't stop learning, ask questions, get really curious. And I think in our world that's so divisive, I think it's becoming much more important that you don't have to agree with another person's point of view, but you can get curious. Like, why is it? Like, why do you think about this? I was talking to a company today and we were talking about branding. And I said, okay, if this company was a car, what would it be? And he was like, what? I go, yeah, what kind of car would this company be? And if it was a family member, what family member it was? And if it's what type of house would it look like? Would it be a house or would it be an apartment? And that was just me getting curious to understand, what does this company represent? And it was the most fascinating conversation. So, and I learned a lot in 30 minutes. I learned so much about what that brand stood for versus reading a brand book that tells me the color of the brand. And so that moves me forward. And I would say that applies in my personal relationships too. Instead of getting mad at my partner, why don't I seek to ask the question hey, what happened that resulted in you being late or not calling me versus me saying why are you so late and being upset at my partner? So it's my North Star in everything that I do.
Those are really good points. In fact, that's how we met, the North, which I totally had on my list. I was like, wait a minute, we got to get back to that. So tell us about how you got involved with the North as an advisor.
So it starts with, there's a theme that you're going to start to see. I said yes to a meeting with Allie Wyatt. She was in media at the time. I was driving the wearable business. And she wanted to learn more about what my goals were and how her company could help. That resulted in a business relationship. And over time, it resulted in mutual respect for each other. And she has produced amazing conferences for female founders with outstanding programming that inspires someone, motivates the other person, and you meet people and you connect. And I think that's really important, is building your network and your village. And she knew what I've done at Intel and Microsoft and my various ventures and everything I do. And she thought I could add value to her community. And when it comes to helping future leaders in any capacity, of course, I'm going to say yes. So it brought me to the North. It brought me to you. I said yes to this. You never know who reaches out to me on LinkedIn and how that one connection could change my life and hopefully can change the other person's life in a positive way.
So true. And with that, all of the awards that you've won, the Ken Leones, the Fast Company, the Effie, the David Ogilvy, the American Advertising. I mean, there's a long list. I think you all should check out her website, which we'll link in the show notes as well. So thank you for that. Okay, let's go back to a couple questions before we do the fun and key takeaways. What did you learn when you were 11 years old that have kept with you today?
Never give up. I was, can I elaborate?
Sure.
Okay, 5'2", basketball, point guard. I wasn't very good, but I didn't give up. Even when my coach thought I would not be good because of my height and he would bench me, when I had the opportunity to play, I played my heart out. And it taught me, despite everybody saying you're too short, you shouldn't play, don't give up on yourself. Because if you give up on yourself, then who's going to bet on you?
So true. That is very, very true. Okay, on that note as well, any additional advice you'd give to our aspiring secret agents, trainees in the audience?
Agents, you are probably superheroes. And there's one thing that every superhero should do is know when they need to ask for help. So ask for help when you need help. Don't be shy.
So true. That's really important. And I think they can be super shy. So I think we need to get them a little bit out of their shells. So thank you for pointing that out. All right. So moving forward, how can our special secret agent trainees follow your journey? Is it Instagram, LinkedIn, your website, all of the above?
All of the above. Instagram. And Instagram is much more personal. I talk about my own journey with my own mental health and being a better human being. LinkedIn is much more professional about the things that I care about and follow. And then you have my website, and then I have Twitter. So all of those.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right, let's switch to this 60-second quick answers. Favorite toy as a child?
Barbie.
Yeah, that's interesting how that always comes up. My past and my future.
They've done a wonderful job of allowing us to create our own worlds.
So true. Yeah. Okay, favorite video game?
Pac-Man.
Yeah, that's my favorite too. Especially Atari 2600. That's like my jam. Yeah.
Yes, that's my jam.
Okay, favorite sci-fi? Star Wars, Star Trek, both, none, something else?
E.T.
Ooh, yeah, that was. I think we're both children of the 80s.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Like, what's E.T.? Yes.
Yeah. And I think for our secret agents that might not know E.T., you should probably Google it, but we can also link here. I might be on Netflix. Yeah. Okay, favorite show or animation as a child? Or cartoon?
Oh my God. Okay, my favorite show was 90210 and Shannon Daughter just away.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That was like 90210 was the world that I aspired to live in. And so it was like my little wishful bubble.
The originals, yeah.
Originals.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, favorite superhero?
This is not like your typical answer, but my parents.
That's a great answer. Yeah.
Superheroes.
Great answer. Okay. Thank you so much. We are so happy to have you with us, and we're going to go through key takeaways now. So if you have anything that we missed, please let us know. All right. Engaging in international experiences is an excellent means to broaden your technical skills, perspectives, and overall experience. Value and nurture relationships with mentors and sponsors to advance your professional career. Embrace the willingness to pivot continuously and say yes to diverse opportunities, including unconventional ones. Prioritization is key to time management. Don't stop learning, keep asking questions, and stay curious. Create your own path in STEM if there isn't one yet. Never give up on yourself, especially during times of adversity.
Outstanding summary, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thank you so much. As a visionary tech leader that you are, Sandra, we are so thrilled and so grateful to you to share your time with us and your journey. And I'm sure that our super secret agent trainees will probably reach out to you, and we're excited to have you on board for our new season of the WhizGirls Academy podcast. And we'll be back again tomorrow. Thank you so much, super secret agent trainees. Take care.